Welcome back to the channel. This is Ready Storm and you are watching ninth part of What If Naruto Gave Up After Hinata's Death. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
As they stood in front of Fox and Cat, Hawk, Horse, Wolf, and Lizard shuffled their feet guiltily. "Oh, damn, it's the tapping of the feet," wailed the horse quietly, staring at Cat, his posture terrified. Most people would assume that the Anbu would be more concerned about their boss's displeasure with them. These people had clearly never served in the Anbu. Cat was feared for a variety of reasons, most of which were quite simple. Fox was usually lenient with his punishments. He also had limits, things he would not do. Cat, on the other hand, refused. When she lost her temper, the consequences were not normally discussed in polite society. Instead, they were discussed in terms of reverential fear, behind closed, locked, and barred doors. Fortunately, her wrath usually came in stages, giving you at least some warning as to when that rope around your neck was going to be a quick way out. Step 1, the folding of the arms. Step 2, the pursing of the lips, which wasn't always fair, because most of the time this step was covered by her mask, and Step 3, the tapping of the feet, which was where Cat was at the moment. Horse had every reason to be concerned, given that Step 4 was the cracking of the knuckles, followed immediately by the drawing of the sword. Each step was capitalized for a reason. Rumor has it that Step 8 was the cause of Hayate's constant cough. He'd really messed up that time. "Would you mind repeating that, gentlemen?" Fox asked calmly, drawing their attention back to him. "He's gone, Fox Tycho," Lizard lamented. "Begin at the beginning," was an order, not a request. "Well, sir," Wolf began, "it started after we thought Naruto had been terrorized enough by Hiashi. 8 hours, 32 minutes, and 47 seconds, Lizard said, counting the time on his fingers. Some voted for more time, but most of us had gone to bed by then. We offered him a safe haven, one that the Byakugan couldn't penetrate, and he jumped at the chance." Hawk chuckled darkly, like a drowning man reaching for a float. "Once we had him in the Anbu headquarters, per your orders, we began his training," Wolf continued, ignoring all interruptions. "Wait a minute. How did you find him in the first place?" Cat inquired, despite her own curiosity. The question seemed to catch the Anbu off guard, as they appeared hesitant to respond. "No, we didn't." "Then who did it?" Fox asked, his tone leaving no room for denial. "Well, you see, Fox Tycho, we had been looking for him in the academy. Apparently, we were bothering Iruka-san, who was catching up on some paperwork, so he offered to go find Naruto to get rid of us." There was much guilty shuffling of feet among the four of them as Wolf, who had been elected their designated spokesman, finished. "Do you mean to say you sent an academy teacher, a mere chunin, to find Uzumaki Naruto?" Cat asked slowly. It did shake the ANBU's remaining composure. The ominous crack of knuckles sealed the deal for them. They, however, refused to grovel. They had standards, even as proud Anbu. "We're sorry, okay?" Wolf whimpered. "We were getting desperate," wailed Lizard. "Oh, we are worms. Worthless worms," groveled Horse, clutching Cat's feet and pleading for her forgiveness. This resulted in a brief pause in the proceedings. To be sure, Horse's reaction was understandable. Horse, despite being a talented ninja, came from an extremely powerful family, which meant that when he joined the Anbu Corps, he was, to put it mildly, a snob. Cat had been tasked with removing this small rough corner. This is what she did. Thoroughly. With great prejudice. Following this traumatic experience, Horse found himself at the very bottom of the command structure, so to speak. Because he hadn't made many friends when he first joined, the majority of his subsequent missions involved anything and everything that fell under the umbrella of Code Orange. Hawk muttered darkly, ignoring his weeping subordinate. Besides, Iruka-san brought Naruto to us in under 15 minutes. Come again? Fox asked, surprised, only to wave his hand when Hawk began to repeat himself. Never mind, I believe you. Please continue with the report. Well, we started working on his taijutsu. Wolf mused, a grin spreading across his hidden features. For some reason, we had a large number of volunteers willing to help with that. On an unrelated note, Horse added, having miraculously regained his composure after Cat's killing intent stopped leaking, the devil can bleed. Cat frowned disapprovingly. Next up, Hawk continued, quickly changing the subject, we moved on to his ninjutsu. A pause lengthened as the four Anbu exchanged meaningful glances. And? Fox inquired. His ninjutsu inventory is already quite impressive. Substitution and henge are excellent, but he also demonstrated 4 other winjutsu, 3 of which appear to be his own creation, resulting in 3C rank and 3D rank jutsu. While impressive, Fox said impatiently, that list lacks the necessary requirements for him to pass the academy exam. Ah, that's where we ran into a snag. We tried everything, but Naruto simply has too much chakra to perform the Bunshin no Jutsu. And? Fox was confident that his men would not let something as simple as that derail their mission. Well, he has a wind affinity, so no elemental Bunshin for him. However, Horse over here knows the Kage Bunshin Jutsu. The 4-man team waited for their captain to weigh in on their decision. They had reason to be concerned. Normally, Fox would have choked his subordinates for even attempting to teach a Jonin-level jutsu, from the Forbidden Scroll no less, to someone who was not even a ninja. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki, on the other hand, was anything but ordinary. There were also other factors to consider. Could they, for example, trust Naruto with such a technique? To be honest, not a single Anbu in the entire Corps would put their trust in Naruto in a card game, with their wallets, or, more importantly, with their sanity. Naruto had always been despised by the people of Konoha for reasons beyond his control. Although the Anbu despised Naruto for reasons that were entirely his fault, there was another emotion that they all shared for the blonde. Respect. They had found him to be unpredictable, unscrupulous, devious, and annoying during their time with him. He scalped them all on cards, constantly humiliated them, would not hesitate to kick you when you were down, and was one of the dirtiest fighters many of them had ever seen. Nonetheless, they would not hesitate in entrusting him with their lives. Because, at the end of the day, Naruto was one of them. He was both their problem and their comrade. As a result, Fox found it astonishingly easy to overlook the infraction and simply inquire whether Naruto had mastered the jutsu. Not at first, Wolf said cautiously. Then Horse informed Naruto that this was a chakra-intensive jutsu and that he could use as much chakra as he wanted. Horse hunched his shoulders defensively and cowered slightly. On the bright side, Naruto no longer has a problem with the clone jutsu, Lizard said cheerfully, trying to be upbeat about the situation. Yeah, but he can summon about 700 Kage Bunshin at once, Hawk grumbled, putting things into perspective. Fox froze, his mind racing as the number reverberated in his head over and over. 700,700,700. Uzumaki Naruto was capable of creating 700 identical, intelligent, tangible copies of himself. That's how he got away. We were all shocked, and then we couldn't tell which of them was him. Horse's explanation jolted Fox out of the nightmares he was conjuring in his mind. Fox locked his gaze on the 4 in front of him, channeling all of his considerable willpower into a single thought. This was entirely their fault. Cat, summon the search parties. Find Naruto now. His academy exam begins at 1600 hours. Cat nodded weakly, then vanished in a swirl of leaves. Fox gave a satisfied nod. Good. And now there are no witnesses. As Fox slowly turned on them, the wolf, lizard, horse, and hawk gulped. Not good, whimpered Horse. Hirixen was concerned. Naruto had only a half hour before the exam was supposed to begin. None of the students had been informed of the existence of the exams, despite the fact that their parents had only recently been informed of the possibility of their children's promotion. It would be carried out in the same manner as a field promotion. Fox would be performing an inspection at the academy. He would casually inquire as to what the academy students were capable of. By the end of the day, he'd be able to tell which students were ready for genin life and which would have to stay in the academy for another 6 months. However, in order for the promotion to be valid, the student had to have passing grades. At this point, he would normally send out Wolf's squad to find Naruto because they had the best success rate, but they had been admitted to the hospital just a few hours before with severe injuries. At his wits' end, he took Fox's advice and asked Iruka to make sure Naruto arrived at the academy as soon as possible. Kiba became the center of attention in the academy after informing the others that a big job was coming in today. When he could be bothered, the Inuzuka was a surprisingly competent gossip provider. The only reason he didn't do it more often was because Ino found it extremely annoying. After all, she was Konoha's gossip queen. That is, behind her mother. Kiba's hearing was only surpassed by his sense of smell, and he frequently heard things he was not supposed to hear. That meant he was often more informed than he appeared to be whenever he could be bothered. They were cut off by a series of yells punctuated by the occasional roar of pain. Iruka appeared seconds later, dragging Naruto by his hair. See, Naruto? I told you Hiashi wasn't here. How do you know? He's a ninja. Screamed Naruto, his logic broken. Shinigami and Kyuubi were perplexed inside Shinigami's seal. So, he's been pursued by a number of S-class shinobi. Shinigami pondered. I defeated multiple S-class shinobi. Kyuubi went on. Suckered a demon fox into assisting him in time travel. Shinigami continued, unable to resist the small jab. Bent a death god to his will with the threatening of more paperwork and not getting any. Kyuubi responded immediately. Shinigami bowed his head, admitting defeat. He's infiltrated the Hyuga compound and turned himself into the stuff of their nightmares. Anbu outruns just for fun. And has escaped from their headquarters in less than 2 hours. All of which are highly impressive accomplishments, Naruto, so tell me, how on earth are you able to avoid your academy teacher for more than a few minutes? I don't know. Naruto sobbed internally, having overheard the two's conversation. Also, in light of all this, Kyuubi muttered, his conversation hidden from Naruto. Why is he so terrified of Hiashi? Shinigami shrugged before the thought of his father-in-law crossed his mind. I believe I understand. Iruka cast a despairing glance at Hinata after making little to no progress in soothing the hyperventilating blonde. Naruto only needed the distraction to break free and bolt for the door, only to slam into it face first when a smirking Mizuki slammed it shut in front of him. Naruto twisted his neck and glared at the teacher. There will be a reckoning. He yelled angrily. Mizuki paled, considered it, and opened the door for him, politely inclining his head and motioning for Naruto to proceed. When Iruka saw Naruto about to flee, he pulled out the big guns, or, to be more precise, the big head.
Uzumaki Naruto, Get to your seat right now, or I will not be held responsible for what I do to you.
He yelled, Demon Head no Jutsu activated. Naruto raised an eyebrow at Iruka before raising both hands as if weighing the scales. Angry Iruka, possible detention, no free ramen for a month, he reflected, wincing. On the other hand, we've got a stark raving mad Hiashi, complete with family sword, certain painful injury, threatened castration. All the males in the room, Akamaru included, hunched automatically. Naruto made his choice. Yeah, goodbye. Hinata grabbed Naruto's hand as he turned to leave. And Naruto-kun, don't worry, I told father everything, and not he's coming after you anymore. Oh? Naruto exclaimed, perking up before becoming skeptical. Are you sure? What exactly did he say? That he recognizes his error and will defer your punishment until he discovers you have done something to warrant it, Hinata explained. So he's going to kill me later? Hinata blushed, refusing to confirm or deny his suspicions. Wonderful. That I can live with. The question is, how long? Shikamaru chuckled. Stop talking, Nara. Naruto walked up to his seat, much happier with his situation. Hinata was close behind. It wasn't until they were seated that they realized they hadn't yet let go of each other's hands. Fortunately, the arrival of Fox distracted the majority of the class, preventing them from noticing this act. At the front of the class, Fox appeared in a shunshin wreathed in flames. The fire roared as it burned itself out in the blink of an eye, leaving the wooden surface untouched. Fox cut an imposing and impressive figure, hands in his trench coat pockets, head bowed, mask in place. Whispers and murmuring rang out throughout the class as Fox stood motionless for a long count of 10. Good day, class. Fox spoke softly. His words were barely audible above the din created by the students. When he spoke, his voice was filled with authority, the authority that comes from years of encounters, the authority that comes from leading men and women who entrust you with their lives through battle after battle and emerging wiser at the end. The room was instantly silenced. Fox smiled behind his mask at the frozen expressions of the academy students in front of him, all except one, who happily waved to him. Well, that didn't go so well, did it? He chuckled. Should we try once more? Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Fox-sama. Naruto exclaimed. The rest of them greeted each other in hushed tones. Sasuke stared at the man in front of him, reveling in the power he sensed. This man might be able to assist him. This man could make him stronger, more powerful, and assist him in achieving his. Ow. Sasuke glared at Naruto, who was whistling innocently while holding a stick behind his back. He despised that stick, Kami. Fox chose to ignore the event. To be honest, it wasn't always worth it when it came to Naruto. He gradually let his intent fade. There had always been more than one type of intent. The one he had been using was simply one of the more complicated and rarely used types. Assume you were on a mission with a new-to-the academy genin and the client lied about the mission ranking. You came across an infamous, powerful missing nin who was leaking killer intent like it was going out of style all of a sudden. True, it's an unlikely possibility, but it could happen. If you were alone, you could simply match his killing intent with your own, but what was to stop one of your genin from just killing himself? As a result, intent of authority was born. My name is something I haven't used in years, so you can call me Taiko or Fox-sama while I'm here. The Hokage has heard some very impressive reports about this year's academy students, and as such, he has asked me to take a look at your development. I'm not interested in academic progress. While useful for code breaking and other less active parts of a ninja's life, You're aiming to be genin, and if you, I'll know if you're not and will sincerely enjoy making it. Troublesome for those who don't give it their all, Shikamaru gulped. First and foremost, ninjutsu. It began as an ordinary lesson, with the students forming a long line and marching to the front of the class to perform a simple henge. The results varied, but the simple exercise gave Fox an immediate idea of who would most likely pass. To no one's surprise, the only ones who stood a chance were the ones Iruka had specifically mentioned. The other students, well, they weren't worth considering. Half of them couldn't even do a perfect henge. Fox shifted his pants subtly as he reflected on this. Naruto, on the other hand, had completed an acceptable transformation, which he dubbed a distraction technique. The clone jutsu had progressed similarly to a normal lesson. There was some surprise when Naruto managed to create 3 perfect clones, a feat he had never done before. They all then turned to Fox and began to smile evilly. Fox shuddered. This development would almost certainly cause them a lot of trouble in the future. That's when the lesson began to become more random, not to mention painful. Taking the academy students outside, he announced that he was now going to test their replacement jutsu ability. But first, a quiz. Who can tell me about the significance of the substitution? Fox inquired. Sakura's hand shot up, much to everyone's surprise. Are you sure, Pinky? Sakura began by taking a deep breath. The replacement jutsu, are Kawarimi. Ninjutsu, general skill. An E rank, supplementary jutsu. Hand seals, ram, boar, ox, snake. With this technique, users replace their own body with some other object, generally a block of wood, the moment an attack lands. This creates an optical illusion, making the enemy think the attack was successful. From this, the user can use the lapse in the enemy's attention. The fox blinked. Twice. Was that taken directly from the textbook? Yes, the rest of the class said in unison. Sakura smiled. Fox exhaled a sigh. Poor child, a Kawarimi is so much more than that. It is a way, nay, the way, to summon the log to thy assistance. Listen to me, all of you, Fox yelled, spreading his arms wide. Pay attention as I tell you about the holiness that is the log. When thou art alone, when foes beset thee on all sides, and thou hast no other allies to call upon, Fox said benevolently. And as the log takes thine place, thou becomest the log as the log becomest thee. For a brief moment, thou art an extension of the log's blessing unto the ninja, Naruto murmured, his eyes glazed over. Fox nodded, relieved that at least one person understood. The log has stood by the ninja of Konoha since its inception, and it can save your life in the most dire of circumstances, against jutsu or enemies that would normally overwhelm you. A replacement requires only a small amount of chakra, so much so that even civilians can perform it. During times of war, this fact has saved the lives of countless people, ninja and non-ninja alike. Are you prepared to summon the log? Why yes? Good, Fox said before grabbing a baseball and throwing it at him. The ball struck the student's forehead with a loud smack, knocking him out almost instantly. Fox shook his head. The child was clearly not prepared. Alright, who's up next? Mizuki stumbled out of the academy grounds 10 minutes later, clutching an ice pack to his head. Demon brat, you're a jerk. When that idiot Anbu went after him, the demon used him instead of a log. Mizuki scowled, recalling Naruto's explanation. Log excerpt 437 states that using the log in a situation that could clearly be avoided using a variety of other methods or techniques is frowned upon. Worse, that moron Anbu then proceeded to award the demon brat bonus points. However, this did mean that he had a reason to flee and wreak havoc, so not everything was lost. Mizuki had only learned of the unexpected promotions this morning and had immediately informed several members of the civilian council of the new developments. He received an immediate and emphatic response. The demon would not pass. That was perfect for his plans. Mizuki groaned. Why, oh why did the demon feel the need to indulge himself and close the door when he was so close to just leaving before the exam? That had given that sassy Hyuga enough time to calm down. The Chunin frantically racked his brains for a way to kick him out of the exam, or at the very least render him incapable of passing. A grin gradually spread across his face. He knew exactly how to do it. All he had to do was call in an old favor, and if he played his cards right, he might even get it for free. Mizuki crept out of the grounds, on his way to see an old friend. Fox appeared to be overjoyed with his results. The majority of the class was taken aback by this fact. The remaining characters were either knocked out or Naruto. Wasn't that fun? Fox inquired rhetorically. Now that I've warmed up my throwing arm, it's time for you to do the same. 10 shuriken, 10 kunai. 2 people to a target, I'll call out the pairs. The target was a simple wooden post buried in the ground, with not even a single bullseye on it. Sakura and a girl named Amy were the first to leave. This was probably for the best, as Sakura was given more opportunities to shine than the other civilians. The ensuing catfight, however, resulted in a facepalm from Foe, though he did notice that for such a small girl, the pinky really packed a wallop of a right hook. Choji and Ino were the next pair. Despite the fact that their projectiles were embedded throughout the post, Ino still received 12 hits, and even 6 of each, 1 more hit with a kunai and 1 less hit with a shuriken than Sakura. Choji watched Ino throw carefully and got 1 less hit with each weapon than she did. Hold! Yelled Fox. The students froze as Fox marched over to Choji and casually lifted him up by his scarf with one hand to eye level. You got a hearing problem, pork chop? Fox roared from the parade ground. Choji shook his head, startled. What was that? Yelled Fox. No. No? No, sir. I asked for your best, and I will have you give me nothing but your best, or are you out to shame your clan by putting on a shambles? No, sir. Well, we'll just have to give you a chance to prove your worth, won't we? Well, drop and give me 200 sit-ups. Choji was horrified by the prospect, but he dropped to the ground and began. Fox counted out loud each sit-up. 1 Akai Michi. 2 Akai Michi. 3. Cruel laughter erupted from the students in line. Fox swooped down with a vengeance on the instigator, the same student who had once told Naruto that Hinata would prefer to be with him because he was more human. You think it's funny, ya little turd? I'm sure it'll be twice as funny with 2 people doing it, so why don't you get down on the ground and give me 300 push-ups? Fox sat on his back and continued the count after the comedian reached 10. He could see that the Akamichi had a crush on the Yamanaka, so he could understand why he was being so reserved. However, he was likely to be on a team with her in the future, and if he continued to hold himself back in order not to upset her, he would either stunt his growth or die. Both were out of the question. As for his current seat, there was no reason for anyone to mock a comrade's misfortune. Laughing at a teammate was acceptable because it was generally in jest and meant no harm, or you simply despised each other's guts. You fought the enemy and each other as a team, but you went through every day together, and by the end, most teammates would willingly place their lives in each other's hands, so what was some harmless laughter in the face of that? The little turd had laughed to be cruel in this situation. That was not something Fox would tolerate, which is why he was sitting. 200 Akai Michi! Fox exclaimed triumphantly, causing Choji's sweating face to light up. As he rose from the collapsed civilian, Fox gave him a kick in the ribs and informed him that he still had 176 push-ups to go. Fox approached Choji and pressed a weapons pouch into his hands. "Believe in yourself, Akamichi, and do your best for me." Choji stood at the line, determination in his eyes, and threw his weapons with strength and accuracy that none of them had ever seen before. Thunk thunk thunk. The last 3 hits brought his total to 17, 9 with kunai and 8 with shuriken, all within a 30-centimeter radius. Choji returned to the rest of the group as Naruto and Kiba applauded Akamichi's performance, his face flushed with triumph. Ino appeared to have never seen him before. The rest of the kunai and shuriken were successful. Kiba and Shino were unable to beat Choji's score, which Shikamaru duplicated, while Hinata received a perfect 20. Naruto and Sasuke were the last to appear. "Oi, Teme. Want to play tic-tac-toe?" Naruto inquired casually. Sasuke curled his lower lip in a half-smile. "That sounds fine, Dobi." Their kunai thunked into the target one after the other, millimeters apart, forming the 4 lines required for the game. "You first," Naruto graciously offered. With a roll of the eyes, Sasuke dispatched a shuriken in the center square. It landed at exactly 45 degrees. Naruto shrugged casually and threw 2 shuriken at the same time, both of which landed in the same corner. The game was over in 6 seconds. "Damn it," Naruto grumbled, his gaze fixed on the 3 single shuriken in a row. He brightened as he looked at their few remaining weapons. "Best of 3? He inquired of the smirking Uchiha. The next game required the use of a couple of Sasuke's shuriken, and they threw their remainders at different angles to determine who was who. "Ha! In your face, Teme!" exclaimed Naruto. Sasuke just stared as they ran out of ammunition. "We'll get to it later," he said. Fox made an obvious tick on his clipboard while chuckling. Following that was another simple exercise using the same posts. They simply had to do as much damage to it as they could in 2 minutes. Ino was rendered ineffective here because her jutsu were not designed to cause significant damage. Choji had another opportunity to shine, as his meat tank jutsu simply flattened the target. Kiba's Gatsuga pierced it cleanly, but he was panting on the ground from using so much chakra. Sasuke's fire jutsu was powerful enough to char the wood but not incinerate it. Unlike Kiba, Sasuke was wise enough to leave it alone after that, saving his chakra for later in the day if he needed it. Shino took advantage of this by having his Kikai bugs bore through the weakened wood repeatedly, causing most of the females in the class to scream in terror. "You're up, Nara and Shikamaru." "Man, what a drag." Shikamaru grumbled as he slumped over to the same post as Sasuke and Shino. He knelt down and placed his hands in a circular position in front of him after staring at it for a while. He sat there for more than a minute before rising and moving to the post. He apparently found what he was looking for after running his hands over the damaged surface, as he sent his shadow inside the wood through the holes bored by the Kikai. He drew a kunai and stabbed it half-heartedly into the post, a little chink sound reverberating in the air. The entire structure crumbled to dust. Shikamaru returned to the open-mouthed spectators, shrugging as if to say, "No big deal." To say the least, Fox was taken aback. The kid had just created a shatter point right in front of him, using his shadow to weaken the wood from the inside out, and then stabbed the exact right spot to cause absolute maximum damage with the least amount of effort. The level of intelligence required to do something like that was unprecedented. Fox slowly shook his head. Someday, that boy would be dangerous. Or you're dead. He didn't have high hopes for Hyuga Hinata. In retrospect, that was a mistake. Hinata obliterated her target with overpowered J-Ken strikes in less than 5 seconds before blushing slightly and hurrying back to try to blend in with the crowd once more. Naruto snatched her into a congratulatory hug, ruining her efforts. Fox had never seen such a red face. He, too, had not expected much from the pink-haired civilian. He was sorely mistaken. She had been pounding away at that thing ineffectively for quite some time before Naruto apparently took pity on her. First, he drew her attention with a rather creative henge. Just thinking about it caused Fox to lift his mask slightly and wipe the blood from his nose. This seemed to enrage the girl, who charged him with her fist raised and screeched his name. Naruto made 2 substitutions just before her fist connected. One Kawarimi replaced him with a log that had been stacked against a post, and the next with Sakura herself. The connecting punch ripped the top of the post clean off. A loud voice yelled his victory to the heavens, breaking the stunned silence. You see. I told you she hits hard. Naruto triumphantly exclaimed. Naruto was the last of the candidates Fox could see passing up the post. He'd been more than a little let down at first. When the timer went off, Naruto dashed up to the post and began wildly chipping away at it with a kunai. The damage was negligible. The erratic student then appeared to have given up, as he placed his hand on his post and simply walked away. Yo, Fox-sama, how much time do I have left? He inquired, hands in his pockets. Fox responded while looking at his timer. 12 seconds, I say. Really? Cool. Hey, you guys might want to back up a little. Fox was suddenly alone after everyone else left the area. The class, and regular Anbu, had learned a long time ago that there was a difference between when a normal almost 12-year-old child told you to move and when Naruto told you to move. When a normal child tells you to move, you might expect paint, water balloons, or the occasional kunai, shuriken. When Naruto said to get out of the way, you got out of the way right now, man. Can you count down from 5, Sasuke? After all, why not, shrugged Sasuke. He agreed in a deadpan tone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bitches, fire in the hole. Boom. Apart from Naruto's maniacal laughter, silence reigned after the large explosion. When the smoke cleared, there was nothing left but a large crater where Naruto's post had been. Uzumaki-san, Fox stated calmly. I had no idea you knew anything about seals. Of course I do, Fox-sama. I wouldn't be an Uzumaki unless I did, would I? Naruto asked, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Fox calculated how much of a raise his Anbu would demand after hearing about this incident, knowing that nothing he said would change the blonde's mind. After calculating an estimate, the Anbu commander absently considered whether he should join Iruka-san in begging Hinata on bended knee to persuade Naruto not to develop a habit of converting city property into large explosive tags. Fox shook his head and moved on to the next item on his agenda. Taijutsu. Mizuki, who had returned to the academy half an hour before, smiled. Now was his chance to severely injure the demon brat, rendering him unable to complete the exam. Woo! It's about bloody time! Exclaimed Anko. She, Kurenai, Kakashi, Asuma, and Guy had been watching the entire impromptu exam from the start, thanks to a series of strategically placed video cameras. There were other potential Jonin sensei in the room, but they were not among the chosen few. Guy hadn't been invited because he already had a genin team, but he decided to stay after tracking down his opponent for one of their youthful matches. Anko provided the method, a shish game. Guy was defeated. Their covert activities were designed to evaluate this year's students and determine who would go where when it came to teams. Anko had grown bored due to the relative simplicity of the tests thus far. Not to mention that she was out of dango. True, the explosion had made things a little more interesting, but that wasn't why she had come here. To be honest, she was looking forward to spending an hour or two just watching the kids beat the crap out of each other. She already had several bets on Naruto to win his match and a grand total of 5,000 ryo on Hinata to win hers, assuming she wasn't fighting Naruto. In fact, she might be able to make the wager more interesting. Listen up, why, pussies. The people in the room stared at her. I'll match any bet, at any time, on Uzumaki Naruto winning any match by forfeiting his opponent if I'm given 2-for-1 odds. The first match pitted Ino against Shino. Surprisingly, Ino was able to win this round. True, Shino had never been one to practice his taijutsu, but he was far more skilled than Ino. Unfortunately for him, one of his bugs chose that moment to crawl out from the sleeves of his jacket and down Ino's leg while he had Ino in a hold. Ino got a lucky hit in the subsequent flailing, accompanied by much shrieking, which was not so lucky for Shino. Shino calmly released Ino from his grip and turned to face Fox after receiving the blow. He quietly said, "I forfeit," in an emotionless voice, before stepping out of the circle and collapsing in a dead faint. Ino blushed, refusing to claim victory in Sasuke's name. This match had another unfortunate side effect. Ino's unintentional actions had gained Anko's full approval. She had gone for a quick dango run during the match and had missed it. After learning all the gory details and recalling the girl from one of her "Don't let my babies eat you" pranks, TM, she concluded that not only was this prank hilarious, but it was also a valid training method, as Ino had been somewhat hopeless previously. That was unexpected, Fox said before consulting his clipboard. Perhaps we should just move on to the next game? Iruka suggested. Agreed, and next up is Hyuga Hinata vs. Uchiha Sasuke. As Sasuke flinched slightly, Naruto snickered. He thought he flinched, but the muscle movement was barely perceptible. What happened next, on the other hand, confirmed his suspicion. No. Fox just stared at him, his head slightly tilted to the side. No? He inquired mildly. Sasuke shivered and broke out in a cold sweat. Nonetheless, he remained firm. He remained stoic even after actions that will not be mentioned. Not on this issue, no amount of threats could sway him. You expect me to give you my all, don't you? I thought I'd made that clear by now, Fox replied, his voice deceptively gentle. I would not be able to show you my best against Hinata, Sasuke stated emphatically, so Fox, rolling his eyes at the Uchiha's perceived arrogance, pitted Hinata against Sakura. Hajime! He exclaimed as the match began. Sakura shifted her gaze. Are you watching me, Sasuke-kun? She cooed loudly to the object of her attention, who winced slightly, a pang of pity rising in his breast. Fox, Iruka, and Naruto were the only ones who saw Hinata's hand move. Sasuke only just noticed a blur. As far as the rest of them knew, Sakura was standing confidently and tall, ready to impress her Sasuke-kun, when Hinata grabbed her ear and twisted. Sakura wailed, "Oh wow 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 wow." Arlia had to persuade Hinata to agree to this stunt, but Hinata understood that it was for the Pinkhead's own good. She was still opposed to the idea at first, but Sakura's first action pushed those reservations aside. Honestly, the Hyuga heir was horrified at Sakura's lack of common sense in leaving herself so open to see if Sasuke was watching her. She had also discreetly checked on Naruto, but she had been wise enough to do so before the match began. It should probably be mentioned that Hinata still held a grudge against Sakura for all the times she had hit Naruto. "Sakura-san," Hinata spoke softly. "Are you not a bright young lady? Oh whoa 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 wow. Yet you take your gaze away from the opponent after the match has begun. I'm a Hyuga, you know, and right now I could turn your brain to mush with absolute ease." Hinata's voice hardened, and she shook Sakura slightly. "You are studying to be a kunoichi, Sakura. Right now, you are nothing more than a fangirl living in a fantasy world, confident that no matter what happens, you will always survive because your knight in shining armor will be there to save you." Hinata stepped back and assumed a taijutsu stance, releasing Sakura. Sakura's eyes were filled with tears, which caused a twinge of pain in Hinata's heart, but she did not let this cause her to falter. She maintained her gentle fist stance and motioned with one extended hand, "Come at me." Sakura charged forward, her fist raised in the air, blinking her rage away. Arlia rolled her eyes as Hinata simply swept Sakura's legs out from beneath her, causing the Pinkette's own strength and momentum to work against her. Sakura sailed up and over Hinata as her feet left the ground, before slamming hard onto hard ground. Hinata sighed and straightened up again, slowly turning around to face her opponent. She could have ended the fight right there and then, but that would have defeated her purpose. "Don't give up yet, Sakura," Hinata advised gently. "You're training to be a kunoichi. Show me your strength." Sakura regained her feet and swallowed, trembling. She was only now realizing that this fight might not be as simple as she had assumed. Anko had acquired a large amount of popcorn, which she scarfed down impulsively, fully enjoying the slaughter in front of her. Hinata clearly had the upper hand in the fight. But the Hyuga refused to give up. Instead, she dragged the fight on, causing defeat after defeat and humiliation after humiliation, firmly establishing her superiority. Some of the Jonin murmured aloud, disappointed in the Hyuga air. "Shut ya traps!" yelled Anko. "Girl, you're not doing anything wrong." One of the more vocal, not to mention less intelligent, members of the audience expressed his opinion. "Of course, you'd say that Anko, girls being vindictively cruel, but you don't really care about that, do you?" Kakashi spoke up softly as he turned a page of his Icha Icha book, preventing Anko from killing her colleague, which would have proved his point. "I concur with Anko-san." Everyone stopped what they were doing to pay attention. Despite being an open pervert, Kakashi was an A-class ninja on the verge of S-class. He was a man who had completed more S-class missions than the two of them combined. He was the fourth student, the man who invented the Chidori, the man who copied 1,000 jutsu. Despite his eccentricities, Kakashi was a highly respected shinobi, one of the best in Konoha. All of this meant that when he spoke, people paid attention. Guy slowly nodded. "I agree with my eternal rival," he stated solemnly. "You do?" Anko inquired, somewhat surprised. "Oh, of course you do." Asuma nodded in agreement with his countryman. This caused some consternation among the shinobi, who attempted to see the situation through the eyes of their senpai. Kakashi began explaining it to them, sighing loudly. "You people have got to start looking beneath the surface. Tell me, who do you think is more prepared for the life of a ninja?" "Of course, Hinata-chan," Kurenai replied. "Good decision," Kakashi said, smiling at her. "How many of you think Sakura-chan is ready to become a ninja?" The room was deafeningly quiet. "Why?" "The Hyuga has a more positive outlook." Asuma nodded, taking command. "Exactly, Haruno-san may have the knowledge and know-how, but I'd rather have someone bring a kunai to a knife fight than a book." Sakura's a fangirl, pure and simple, Anko stated bluntly, quietly cheering as the person of interest landed hard on the ground. She has a lot of potential, but that potential means nothing if she doesn't have the attitude and motivation to get her $1 in gear and make something of herself. Guy concurred. It may not appear so, but Hinata-san is attempting to fan Sakura's flames of youth, so that she may bloom like a delicate flower in the springtime, full of youth and zest for life. Kakashi started speaking again. The Uzumaki clan had a saying, "Where does the chain break?" He asked, pausing to wait for an answer. At the most vulnerable link. The copy nin gave a nod. Exactly. Consider it. The realization dawned on the faces of those around them. Hinata was not having a good time with this. It was simply not in her nature to cause someone such pain. However, if Sakura did not receive a wake-up call now, it only meant that she would have to receive one later in life, most likely while on a dangerous mission. Arlia had explained everything to her in layman's terms. You beat this into her now, and you beat it into her so hard that she will never forget it. Sure, she will suffer pain and humiliation, but she will learn and grow. Make no mistake about it, this is a lesson that she will learn if she survives long enough in this profession. Shanaru. Sakura yelled again, charging Hinata. Hinata was surprised because Sakura had become more cautious, never committing to anything major. This had obviously changed. Sakura was exhausted and in pain. Who was this girl thinking she was? Hinata, the shrinking violet, was supposed to be an easy kill. Everyone knew she was a Hyuga, and Hyuga only used the Juken. What was the point of all these extra moves and kicks? None of them belonged to the gentle fist. Sakura turned to see Sasuke's expression and paid for it with a full-on backhanded slap to the face, after which Hinata had told her to pay attention to her opponent. Sasuke had not been taken aback. In fact, it appeared that this was exactly the outcome he had anticipated. It hurt her that he didn't believe in her, even though she should have expected that at this point. What hurt the most was Hinata's expression. Her eyes were filled with sympathy, understanding, and pity. Sakura had a nervous breakdown. She had no right to feel sorry for herself. She resolved to do everything she could to remove that look from Hinata's face. She charged forward again, this time with this thought in mind. She didn't even notice Hinata's counter. However, the Jonin did. Hinata took a simple step back as Sakura unleashed her righteous right hook, perfectly timing it. Sakura's punch met no resistance, and Hinata struck while she was off balance. Hinata's left hand wrapped tightly around the upper portion of Sakura's extended arm, and she moved in close enough to grasp the front of Sakura's clothes with her right hand. Hinata finished the spin by tucking her right elbow beneath Sakura's armpit for leverage and throwing her over her shoulder. Sakura landed on her back, the air filling her lungs. She was paralyzed for a moment as Hinata leaned forward, a dagger hand at her unprotected throat. You could be strong, Sakura, Hinata said softly, compassion in her eyes. Stronger than you could possibly imagine, but you have to work for it. One day, instead of constantly trailing after that precious person, you will be able to walk alongside him. Instead of being a burden, you will be a help, and together, you and he will be able to overcome enemies that would otherwise be the death of you, Hinata said. Or stay as you are and rely on your teammates to carry you through the mission, but know this. There will come a time when your teammates will need you to carry them. If you are strong, you might be able to manage it. If you are weak, they will die, and their blood will be on your hands. Hyuga Hinata is the winner. The Jonin room was deafeningly quiet. Kakashi had taken to lip reading and speaking aloud in front of everyone. He had done this in perfect imitation of Hinata's voice while also reading his Icha book. Anko was giddy with delight, both at being proven correct and at the small pile of Ryo that had accumulated in front of her. Honestly, Asuma said, I'm surprised, if not impressed. I didn't think any of the genin would have been able to see so far ahead, and I certainly didn't expect Haishi's firstborn to blow my expectations out of the water. Anko laughed. The girl is shy, not to mention kind, Anko said, pausing. She's a lot like me, the snake mistress said cutely when no one took the bait. She's also best friends with the Gaki, so I won't be surprised by much of what she's capable of anytime soon. Indeed, Guy reflected thoughtfully. I never thought I'd see the day when, of all people, a Hyuga performed a Marote Seoinage. Oh, so that's the name of that throw? Kurenai inquired. Guy nodded solemnly. The Marote Seoinage, also known as the two-armed shoulder throw, is a technique practiced by judo practitioners. Judo? Yosh, despite its age, judo is not a widely practiced taijutsu style. However, it would blend well with the gentle fist. Oh? Permit me to explain. The gentle fist, although a formidable style, has several weak points, Guy said, commanding the full attention of his audience. Despite his eccentricities, Guy was a highly respected shinobi. When he spoke seriously, without the usual mentions of youth, people listened. Plus, there was no one in the room with a better knowledge of taijutsu than him. Naturally, I will not reveal the weaknesses of another leaf shinobi, he said, giving them the nice guy pose with a light glint in his teeth, but after the face fault, he and Kakashi exchanged glances, and Kakashi nodded slowly. Despite their eternal rivalry, Guy was Kakashi's best friend, or the closest thing to it, and Guy saw Kakashi in the same light, as they silently debated the incorporation of judo into the juken. The gentle fist contains no throws or grapples. Of course, grappling with a Hyuga is generally considered suicide, but it is possible if one is fast and strong enough. The gentle way is largely made up of throws and grapples, not to mention ways to get out of them and make the enemy pay while doing so. Strong enough blows can negate the juken, as the Hyuga will have to choose between exerting chakra to deflect the blow or damaging the fist. Shut up, everyone. The Gaki is getting ready to fight. According to 60,000 Ryo, he wins this fight without even punching him, yelled Anko. I'll take that wager. Several others exclaimed. Naruto looked at his opponent with a hungry expression on his face, slowly lifting half of his top lip to show off an elongated canine, lightly running the tip of his tongue over it to bring it to his opponent's attention, and the other boy whimpered slightly. Hajime! Fox yelled, and Naruto let out a short, controlled burst of killing intent directed at his opponent, who simply froze in place, prompting Naruto to sigh slightly before approaching him and leaning in close, face to face. Boo! With a terrified scream, his opponent jumped over the ring's edge, forfeiting the match. Back in the Jonin room, Kakashi blinked slowly, commenting lightly, well, that was anticlimactic, while Anko cackled madly as she collected her winnings, mentally calculating the cut she had to give the blonde. Not satisfied with the performance, Fox assigned the loser to do push-ups while he volunteered another victim. 5 minutes later, there was a line of 7 people all doing push-ups, resulting in a frustrated Fox and a much richer Anko. Some people just never learned. Please allow me to offer a solution. I have a friend nearby who would gladly serve as Naruto sparring Kun's partner. After all, he's fought Iruka and I many times, and we're both Chunin, so forcing him to fight us, let alone you, Fox-sama, would be unfair to Naruto-kun. My friend is a genin, but Naruto is one of the best taijutsu students we have right now, so they should be evenly matched. Alright, Fox said, bring him out. Koji, said Mizuki, nodding. Come on over here. he exclaimed. People's eyes widened when they saw Naruto's opponent, who could most likely be described in a single word: big. Not big as in tall, although he appeared to be just over 6 feet tall, but big as in, well, big. He would have topped the scales at well over 100 kilograms, not just fat. He had the physique of a professional bodybuilder, with biceps that dwarfed the size of Naruto's head. Fee fi fo fum, muttered Naruto, what beanstalk you fall from? Who the hell are you? Asuma sputtered, his cigarette smoke choking him. Who gives a damn? Kurenai inquired, his gaze fixed. Mushels, Anko agreed, slightly drooling. Ahem. Anko turned around, still drooling, to see a long line of jonin with money in their hands. I believe you said, Anko-san, that you would match any bet on Naruto-kun winning his matches by forfeit at any time, as long as you were given 2-for-1 odds? Anko paled, slowly looking at Naruto, the TV screen, the huge pile of Ryo and IOUs in front of her, and the long line of people wanting to take it from her. There are a few of us who would like to take you up on that wager. Fox-sama, mighty good to see you again, Koji said, bowing at the waist. Despite being surprised by Koji's appearance, Fox maintained proper etiquette. Likewise, Koji-san, I take it you are Uzumaki opponent? Sans. It appears so. Fox looked at him thoughtfully before chuckling slightly, wondering briefly if his decision had anything to do with Naruto's path of death, TM, before answering, I see. Proceed. Fox-sama, I must protest, Iruka said, this does not seem fair. Appearances can be deceiving, Iruka-san, Fox said casually, but I'm confident Naruto-san will make do. Naruto swore under his breath, wondering what he had done to deserve this, and Shinigami and Kyuubi provided a long and comprehensive list. Naruto Uzumaki vs. Kyoken Koji. Hajime. Naruto immediately did a couple of backflips to gain some distance. He would have to tread carefully in this fight, whereas Koji remained motionless. So. You're Uzumaki Naruto, aren't you? He inquired, but Naruto remained silent. You know, Koji said casually, I've heard you've caused a lot of trouble for a lot of people. In fact, he continued, I've heard you're constantly disrespecting your superiors. His eyes hardened. I've heard you think you're someone important. I've heard you're not ready to be a ninja. Naruto remained silent. You should give up, according to what I've heard. Why do you think so many people give him the perfect setup for that line from the pervert's book? Shinigami sighed. The plot called for it, Kyuubi shrugged. Really, Naruto said slowly and casually, I heard your mother plays pool with the planets. Crack. The punch that connected with Naruto's jaw was so powerful that it would have ended the match right there if he had angled it to launch Naruto backwards and out of the ring instead of driving him to the floor. Koji immediately tried to correct that by swinging a large foot towards Naruto's head. But, as powerful as the punch was, the big man had underestimated the thickness of Naruto's hard head. Blood began to drip from Koji's nostril, but Naruto was in the air and vulnerable. Reaching out, the big man plucked Naruto from the air and threw him back towards the center of the ring. Hitting the dirt with a grunt, Naruto skidded across the ground for several meters, scraping away the first couple of layers of skin, before digging his hands into the earth beneath him, halting his slide barely a meter away. Funny, Naruto said, spitting a mouthful of his own blood to the side as he slowly regained his feet. People always forget the first rule of a ninja when it comes to me. Never underestimate your adversary. Perhaps you just overestimate yourself, Koji countered logically, quirking an eyebrow. Nah, Naruto replied thoughtfully. Koji was far stronger than Naruto, even with the Jinchuriki using chakra to strengthen himself. Sure, He had chakra to burn, but that didn't mean much when it came to augmenting your strength. Just ask Tsunade. But Naruto was also just a little bit faster than Koji and provided a much smaller target. Not that it helped when he found it impossible to get past his opponent's vastly superior reach. Koji turned to the right, trying to face Naruto, but the effort was futile, as Naruto turned with him, moving his feet in long, sliding, hop steps to keep pace. Koji was getting frustrated. He knew Naruto was behind him, he knew he just needed to turn around to face him, but it didn't seem to be happening that way. It was almost as if Naruto knew exactly what he was doing before he did it. Most shinobi, with the exception of the Hyuga, never really focused on Hellstromism, or the ability to tell what a person was thinking by how their muscles moved. Naruto actually sucked at it, but right now, his opponent's muscles were massively overdeveloped. He did, however, have an advantage that gave him just the edge he needed. His instincts. Combine those two factors with a lot more combat experience than anyone else. For the time being, Naruto went on the attack. His fists appeared tiny in comparison to his opponent, but they each had specific targets. 3 targets to be exact: the kidney, the coccyx, and the third lumbar vertebrae. Naruto slammed his fists against those 3 points, swearing slightly at the feeling of punching a brick wall. Never mind. He had already done that in training. Aren't you a vicious little scrapper? I try, Naruto said wolfishly. Kakashi shook his head slowly, amazed at the little blonde's progress. Had this been a normal fight, he said slowly, Naruto would have already won. Tell me about it, Asuma said, puffing on another cigarette. Any of those points would have ended the match if he had used a kunai instead of his fists. I had no idea the academy was teaching all of these important concepts to their students. They don't, Kakashi said, looking at Anko, who was currently tied up in the corner after trying to sneak out of the room. She had thought for sure that she could win her rather outrageous bet until she saw who his last opponent was. As such, she had immediately tried to sneak out of the room to avoid the possibility of handing over all her lovely Ryo, at least as soon as she had stared long enough at the mushels. First rule of a ninja, Naruto declared confidently, resuming his unconventional taijutsu stance. Never let an opponent get behind you. I thought the first rule was, never underestimate your opponent. Koji inquired, clearly intrigued. We're training to be shinobi, Naruto said dismissively. It's a dangerous job where one mistake can lead to death. As a result, all rules are the first rule. You know what? Koji chuckled quietly. I believe I like you, kid. So I'm not going to insult you anymore. Koji channeled chakra to his limbs for the first time since the match began. Uzumaki-san has shown great youth flames. Yet he will not be able to win this match, Guy concluded quietly and definitively, punching the air. What? Why? Screamed Anko. She had slipped her bonds rather easily after seeing Naruto do so well against the much larger man and was greatly distressed by Guy's statement. Guy shrugged and spoke matter-of-factly, simple. Kyokan-san is a very young person. He and his family moved to Konoha before the last war, and he became a leaf ninja. He is now a semi-retired shinobi as a result of an accident that resulted in the deaths of his teammates during the Third World War against an Iwa team. What occurred? Kurenai inquired. His teammates were overconfident, Guy winced as he retold the story. They charged Iwa Nin without conducting an adequate investigation. Koji's teammates were skilled shinobi, which fueled their arrogance. That didn't help them much when the Five Tails Jinchuriki ripped them to shreds. From what I understand, Kakashi stated casually, Koji escaped from a four-tailed blood shroud. Furthermore, he did it while carrying the remains of his comrades. He's now a blacksmith, Guy continued, one of Konoha's finest, which is why he's not allowed to go on actual missions. But every now and then, he and I will have a friendly spar. He's never won in pure taijutsu, but he's one of the few people who can push me when I'm just using it. The fact that he can take one of my full power punches to the jaw while I'm on the third gate and get back up, ready for more, is also a nice bonus. This statement was met with silence before more people began to back Anko against Naruto. Blondie's screwed, Anko summed up the situation perfectly. Koji came in hard and fast. Naruto tried to block the first punch, but the feeling of his forearm fracturing from the impact told him that was a bad idea. He felt the bone knitting itself back together as he tried frantically to avoid each punch. It was like fighting a completely different being. He could hear the whoosh of displaced air every time a hand passed close by his head, but he did not panic. Whumph. Just as Naruto thought he'd gotten used to the speed of Koji's blows, he suddenly threw a left hook at least twice as fast as the others. Completely unprepared for it, Naruto took it directly in the belly. He tried to scream in pain, but there was no air left in his body to do so, so blood came out of his mouth instead at the sheer force of that titanic blow. Koji turned and began to walk away as Naruto fell to the ground, but a shifting of dirt caught his attention, and he turned around to see Naruto back on his feet. "Stay put, kid. You're not going to win this one," Koji stated matter-of-factly. "Give it up. Give up trying to make me give up," laughed Naruto. So saying, Naruto rushed forward once more, pirouetted around Koji's fist, finishing the move with the point of his elbow striking directly at a point just beneath Koji's heart. The big man was faster. Koji simply took a single, lazy step backwards and avoided the blow, hammering Naruto hard across the face with his own elbow strike, followed by a kick to the side of Naruto's body T. "Are you really that conceited? I find it difficult to believe you'd continue to believe you could beat someone much stronger than yourself," Koji asked angrily, all trace of his previous kindness gone as if it had never been there, his strangeness intensifying as anger entered his voice. "Arrogant? What are you talking about?" Naruto was perplexed. "You're really good, kid. But you're not nearly as good as you believe you are. You go out into the field like that, never giving up, and you'll be dead in a week." "I don't give a damn," Naruto yelled angrily, and rage burned in Koji's eyes as he moved to attack once more, but he stopped as Naruto continued speaking. "Do you think I'm unaware of how frail I am? You think I'm unaware that there are monsters out there who would tear me apart just by looking at me? Breaking news, bozo. I know. However, this does not imply that I am the type to simply flee. Why do I want to be Hokage one day? Let me guess," Koji joked, "so that everyone will acknowledge ya? To hell with it. The Hokage is the strongest person in the village, and I want to be strong enough to protect my precious people," Naruto yelled, his face flushed as he remembered other, more ignorant times. Koji shook his head slowly, looking impressed despite himself. "That sounds mighty pretty, kid, but ya don't even know what's out there," he said. "Monsters." The other academy students looked at him, puzzled, and Fox just nodded slowly. He knew Naruto was more world-weary than most, but this was beyond what he thought he knew. "Monsters, you say? What, like the ones hiding beneath the bed?" Koji mockingly said. "I sure as hell hope not," Naruto shivered at the thought. "I'm talking about real monsters, monsters in human form, people who kill, torture, burn, subjugate, rape, conquer, manipulate, slaughter. All for the pleasure of it." He shook his head. "I'm talking about real monsters, monsters in human form, people who kill, torture, burn, subjugate, rape, conquer, manipulate, slaughter. All for the pleasure of it. There are people in the world who would tear me apart with a smile. There are people in the world who would kidnap young girls with the sole intention of turning them into breeding machines. There are people in the world who have murdered their entire family for no other reason than to test their own strength. How will I ever be able to face one of those monsters if I give up to someone like you? Several people in the audience winced as they heard these words. Why don't you tell me? What would you do if you were confronted with one of them right now? Koji inquired, genuinely interested in Naruto's response. I have the perfect plan, Naruto said wisely, turning around and running like hell. It is optional to scream like a little girl. Shinigami agreed, too right. Yeah, just ask Hiyashi, Kyuubi chuckled. Koji let out a short bark of laughter that ended as abruptly as it began, steel glinting in his eyes. How is that any different than giving up? There's nothing wrong with a tactical withdrawal. You weigh the risks and decide whether it's worthwhile. You'd be a moron not to. Remember that, a fox who fights and flees lives to fight another day. And what if you had your precious people with you? So, what now? Naruto's response was immediate and unflinching. You'd die, was a matter-of-fact statement, delivered without hesitation. I'd cheerfully slit my own wrists if it meant that my precious people would live just a moment longer, Naruto shrugged. Furthermore, my death would be the least expensive for Konoha. I have no family to mourn my death. My clan is no longer alive. I'm not a clan heir, nor am I a famous ninja, at least not yet. Remember, you're speaking to the village outcast? There are probably a lot of people here who would rejoice at my death. Those I hold dear would be sad to see me go, but it is better for them to be sad than for me to bury them. I know it's selfish, but it's true. The Jonin in the room looked at the young man incredulously, unaware that Naruto's words had won him many allies that day. Koji finally broke the silence, saying, So. You're not going to give up? He inquired once more. Naruto remained silent, while Koji nodded, threateningly cracking his knuckles. All right then. In that case, you've given me no choice. Fox-sama? I give up. Fox nodded, his smile hidden behind his mask, and Koji's words broke the stunned silence, which was broken by a loud yell from the distance. Yeeeeaahhhh. Ah. Ignoring Anko's joy, Fox motioned towards the two fighters, winner, Uzumaki Naruto. Let's shake hands, lads. Naruto shook Koji's hand, perplexed. He simply inquired. People were concerned that you weren't mentally prepared for the life of a ninja, at least, Koji said sheepishly as he pulled a business card from his pocket. Probably because you treat everything as if it were a joke. Hell, you even treat the Anbu as if they were a joke. However, they are. Naruto objected. The spectators' sweat evaporated. However, we were concerned that if you treated your shinobi career the same way, you'd die before your time. It turns out that you know a lot more than you admit. For what it's worth, kid, you have my respect, which I don't just hand out to anyone. If you keep it, you'll be a great ninja, one of the best. Naruto swallowed, a lump in his throat, and humbly said, Thank you. Koji gave him a thoughtful look before pulling a business card from his pocket. Here. Look me up if you ever need to be pounded again. Who knows, in a few years you might be ninja enough to beat me in a sparring match. Naruto exclaimed angrily, Oi! Koji's deep, booming laugh rang out across the practice field. Mizuki rushed to catch up with Koji after he left the academy. You were supposed to make sure he didn't pass. Mizuki said, her teeth clenched. You were wrong, old friend, Koji chuckled as he looked down at the angry man. You said he wasn't prepared to be a shinobi. You were mistaken. He's more than ready to become a leaf ninja. Mizuki clenched his teeth, wondering who this stupid ox thought he was. Breathing out, he calmed down. After all, it wouldn't do to blow his cover just yet. I'm sorry, Koji, but... Ah, never mind. Just what, ma friend? Said the blacksmith, concerned. Mizuki expressed his concerns. It's just, ever since I saved your little sister's life, you've always done your best for me. You took me in, lent me money if I was low, invited me into your home, and this is how I repay you, he said reluctantly. What does it matter? Remember how we took the matter to the council? They were worried, especially when I told them Naruto wasn't ready to become a ninja. They explicitly stated that you were to fail him, or at the very least render him unable to pass this year. After all, broken bones are preferable to a dead body. I said that if he wasn't ready to be a ninja, I wouldn't let him pass, Koji said, dismissing his concerns. Mizuki, you're a good teacher, taking such good care of your students. But you have to let this one go. Uzumaki has the potential to be one of the greatest ninjas we've ever seen, in my opinion. He was prepared to become a ninja. When I saw that, there was no way I was breaking him. The council will make your life difficult, Mizuki warned. Koji shook his head. Alright. It's better that my life becomes difficult than that I break a child's spirit. I can take a little trouble. With that, he said his goodbyes and returned home. You should have done what I told you to do, Koji, Mizuki said, glaring at him. A little difficulty? Ha. I'm afraid you've stepped over the line this time. You had the opportunity and the command to break the demon brat's spirit, but you didn't. It's an eye for an eye. One tooth for another. For your sake, his spirit. You will be sorry, you cretin. Congratulations to everyone. I've seen enough, Fox said as he rummaged through his jacket, finding what he was looking for and tossing it to the 9 people in the room. In shock, Naruto looked down at his new Hite 8 before quickly looking around to see that the rest of the rookie 9, bar 1, had the same expression on their faces. This is going to be a pain. Congratulations, everyone. Genin, please report to room 3A tomorrow to be assigned your team and sensei.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.